Hello. Welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is a show where we talk about THC, truth, hope, and change. Trying hard to find the truth and gather enough hope that we can work hard to get the change that's going to be required to move our society forward in a very positive way. It's not easy, but we're working on it. On the show today, we're going to have, of course, 8 out of 10 Glenn Wells from Cannabis.ca. Cannabis.ca, of course, that wonderful app that'll help you connect with people in the cannabis community. Check that out. We'll also do a little visit with the CSP Healing Wave RV, as we always do, and upgrade what's going on with that. We'll talk quite a bit about 420 coming up, which is going to be epic. Get your booths as quick as you can. They're going quick. So today I come to you having just received a letter from Health Canada with respect to the application to the Special Licensing and Exemption Division by the Cannabis Substitution Program and by the Healing Wave Dispensary to get an exemption from the Cannabis Act to allow us to continue to do what it is that we've been doing for over 6 years now in rescuing people from addiction and demonstrating clearly that even unregulated cannabis can be very safe for people, and it can be highly effective in addressing many of the health issues that people have that drive addictions, and many of the health issues that people have because of poverty and other things that are happening within the area that we're here at the downtown east side of Vancouver in Canada. It's been a long journey with Health Canada. Our journey started, of course, long before Health Canada was involved at all, because 6 years ago when we started the program, there was no licenses to apply for, there was no legalization, the Cannabis Act had not been drawn up yet. So after a few years of providing access to cannabis, especially high-dose edibles, to show the effectiveness of helping people get through withdrawal and substitute the use of those other drugs, we did get legalization, and we were required then to apply for a license to do what we'd been doing before they even existed. And so we did. We put in an application that, in my mind, was not able to be refused. That we had demonstrated by that time for 3.5 years how effective it was what we were doing. We had dozens of people that were given testimonials on video that we submitted. We had lots of different letters. We had doctors and professors and the best in the fields supporting what we were doing there. And we felt that Health Canada would be required to give us a license to allow us to continue what we were doing. However, the forces of corruption are very strong here in this country, as they are in probably all the countries around the world. The people are but slaves to, in our case, what are calling themselves public servants, who clearly are not serving the interests of the public. They are clearly serving the interests of the financial elite, the parasites that have been preying on the average human being for many a millennium now, many a decade, and lots of time that this has been going on. And certainly it's up from where it was, and we've been demonstrating that, if along with some other things, but probably first and foremost what we've been demonstrating is just how corrupt our government must be to not properly support what it is that we have proven to be exactly the right response with respect to providing cannabis for people during this public health emergency, where over 11,000 people are now dead from the opioid tainted supply from fentanyl and all of that kind of stuff. So the journey, I guess, once we've put in our application with Health Canada, we'll call that the start of our journey with Health Canada. They acknowledged receipt of our application the following day after we applied. We had also put in an application for an emergency temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act. We submitted this also to the Federal Health Minister, Patty Haydu, as well as to Mr. Benoit Seguin at Health Canada. Over the course of the next couple of months, we didn't hear much from them. They said they'd try to address it in a timely fashion. And in fact, we were facing addiction based on whether or not they supported us. That time came and went. We were evicted from the storefront that we had opened in good faith based on what the city told us that they would allow and support. And so once evicted, now operating out of an RV because we couldn't stop the program, finally about 3 months after our application went in, we did have a meeting, a pandemic meeting, a phone meeting with Mr. Seguin and a couple other people from Health Canada and with my lawyer and myself. And one of the first things that was said by Mr. Seguin was an apology for having taken so long, recognizing, of course, this is a public health emergency. People are dying at an alarming rate, and we have what has been demonstrated to be a good solution to that. And so it's time sensitive, their application or our application being approved by them. So he apologized for having taken so long. Later in the conversation expressed that it would likely be early January before the licenses would come. And January came and went, and the next January came and went, and this last January has come and now gone. And what we got back in January was a letter from Health Canada, an email to myself stating that our application was still under review. Now, at this time, it's not just our original application, because on April 22nd of last year, we were given an intent to refuse by Health Canada. Apparently, I'm told by some that that's just a formality, but in any case, we certainly needed to respond, and we were given a length of time to respond to their intent to refuse, based basically on two things. One is that they would require that all of our supply be legal, and the second one would be that anybody that receives cannabis distributed by us would have to have medical professional oversight on that transaction and that happening, with a doctor agreeing that you could have so many grams of cannabis or milligrams of edible cannabis per day and all of that type of stuff. So we certainly did respond, and I thought quite well, to their intent to refuse. We got it in before the deadline of September 6th. We got it in there on September 2nd. And so basically that is what they were telling me was under review back in January. So here a couple days ago now, I get forwarded to me a correspondence from Health Canada, which is, again, an intent to refuse a second time. So, but it's an intent to refuse, and I have 30 days to respond to that, and we certainly will be responding to that. But their reasons are the same, that all of our supply is coming from the I mean, they didn't say that. In fact, what they say, I think, is just a typo, because it doesn't read properly. At least it reads that they're not about to say yes to us as long as we're using a regulated supply. And I think they meant to say unregulated supply there. I don't know if that technicality will be enough to overturn this. Probably not. But, you know, so... And the statement they make along with that is that the reason for it needing to be a regulated supply is to protect public health and safety, and to keep, to try to curtail the illegal activities around cannabis. I think they're really missing the bottom line, which is that people are dying of a tainted drug supply, and we're having a way out for them available to them. And I don't care whether they think that the unregulated supply that we're using, I'm pretty sure that's what they meant, I don't care if that's a little more dangerous than their regulated supply, although I think we've demonstrated quite clearly that it's not. After 6 years of doing this with the unregulated cannabis that we've been using, we have not had a single complaint. There's no problems of any sort. No victim has been created in any way. So if they felt they had justification for worrying about that aspect of things, then I think that we've demonstrated quite clearly, proven, at least in our case, that the suppliers that we've been using have have not caused any problems for anybody, and in fact have provided us with good medicine for people. And I'm not so sure they can say the same thing about their regulated supply with the amount of chemicals that they're using and the fact that they actually state themselves that their regulated supply is not medical, that they don't have medical cannabis available to people in the retail marketplace. Of course, that's strange because those same companies producing that same cannabis that's available in those regulated marketplaces are also supplying people who order their cannabis online with their doctor's permission. So in any case, I think there is reason to suspect that there's been some compromising of the medical quality of the cannabis that the government is offering for people. I think that their position that it's non-medical speaks volumes to what they even believe themselves about their own cannabis. But what we have shown here for all of this time is quite clearly that there's no problems associated with the supply of cannabis that we've been using here with the Healing Wave and the Cannabis Substitution Program. We've asked that our suppliers be licensed. That would be one way of quickly giving us a regulated then supply. If there was reasonable regulations that they would impose on those suppliers of ours, that's a solution. We would use their regulated supply even though, like I said, I have some suspicions about the medical quality of it. But if they would allow for the licensed producers who are growing this so-called safe regulated supply, they could easily donate to us or provide us at a cost that would allow us to keep our prices down to where they are now or better, all of that cannabis that they're required to destroy because they grew too much, typically. So we have suggested solutions to Health Canada to have the supply regulated. We also suggested that our society, members of our society, could become designated growers for many of the clientele that we're dealing with. That would be a regulated supply, of course. But you see, it's interesting because the regulated safe supply of cannabis that's coming into the retail marketplace is not satisfying the needs of the medical users for the most part. There are medical users that use that system and do order that same cannabis from those licensed producers, but the majority of medical users are using cannabis that they're producing themselves, or they have a designated grower growing for them. And in those cases, there's no regulations. Health Canada is not there requiring that they keep the microbe count down. There's no testing of their cannabis that they're growing for their own medical purposes or it's being grown for them by a designated grower. There's no requirements by Health Canada. There's no testing by Health Canada to make sure that there's proper microbe levels. They do sometimes inspect growing facilities for medical patients for other reasons, but they certainly don't have those restrictions going on that they have to use certain chemicals or they have to irradiate it or anything like that. In fact, I think the majority of people are just growing their own 4 plants at home. Non-medical people, although all use is medical, it's just this definition of what medical is. But if you're using it for recreation, well, that's certainly medical. It's recreation. It's a subset of medicine. It's preventative medicine. So if you're using it because it calms you down at the end of a tense workday, well, that's medicine. If you're using it because it helps you sleep at night, well, that's medicine. So if you're using it to distract yourself from the pain of arthritis or other things, well, that's medicine. And of course, we all know it's medicine when people with MS are using it or people that are trying to battle the effects of chemotherapy. It's medicine for everybody all the time. But for the government to say that it's not safe to the point of needing to criminalize any supply that's out there that doesn't come from the regulated marketplace, where at the same time, so much of the cannabis that people are consuming is cannabis that they're growing themselves. Either they're 4 plants that they're allowed to grow, or someone's growing for them, or they're able to grow more than that. The point is, there's a hell of a lot of cannabis that's out there in the marketplace that is being consumed by consumers, that does not come through licensed producers, is not subject to those strict regulations that those people are subject to, and yet there's not any problem with that cannabis. Nor does Health Canada seem to be concerned that there is, or that there should be or would be. They just don't even really talk about that at all. In fact, Health Canada doesn't talk about much. It's hard to get statements out of them, especially on this topic. Hard to get through to them. Hard to get them to do things. So, as for not having a proper regulated supply of cannabis, I'm sure that those people paid the big bucks at Health Canada in the Special Licensing and Exemption Division could figure out how to make that work. If that's the big stumbling block to us being able to continue to rescue people from addiction, but much more importantly, to continue to maintain the supply to those people that have come to rely on us, then I would think Health Canada could find a way around that, or find a way to make that okay. And like I said, we've suggested some very viable options to them to be able to do that, either with licensing the people that are supplying us, or allowing us to have the stuff that's being destroyed and wasted by these licensed producers. So in my view of that particular stipulation by Health Canada, that is a red herring. That should not be there. A, because we've certainly demonstrated that our supply is safe enough to be supported, or B, I think Health Canada could figure out how to make it work for us with regulated supply coming from licensed producers, something like that. So that's the first one of their stipulations. The second one is really quite atrocious, in my opinion. It's an admission by Health Canada that they haven't got a clue about what the actual situation is for people on the ground that are dealing with addictions and poverty and homelessness and all the other things that these poor people are trying to deal with when they're not equipped to do that. For Health Canada to suggest that the only people that can get easy access to what will help them get off of those drugs, which is high-dose cannabis edibles, that they would need to have a professional, a doctor, provide oversight on that. That is atrocious. That is murder. That would mean that to the vast majority of the people that we're helping here, we would have to say no to. I challenge Health Canada to send somebody down here to do that job for us, because I don't want to do it. I won't do it. Why would we have to do that? Who have we harmed in what way, in any way, that could justify now turning our backs on these people who have come to rely on the service that we're providing? There's millions of Canadians right now that aren't homeless, in poverty, or addicted. Well, they might be, who knows. But they can't get a doctor. Mainstream people in our society are unable to get a doctor. There's not enough doctors to go around. Then there's a huge other population that doesn't get talked about very much, but it's real. It's very real, and it's large. There's a number of people that really would not want to go see a doctor. I know men in general kind of have that problem. They don't want to go tell a doctor about what's going on. It's difficult to convince them to go see a doctor. They're part of that group. I got 4:19, so we got 1 minute. So that group of people in Canada, which is quite large, that doesn't want to go see a doctor, or actually have a phobia about it and are afraid to see a doctor, they're also now going to be left out of any easy access to cannabis based on what Health Canada is deciding that they will and will not license. So I'm quite appalled by that. It's another block, another delay, another excuse, all of that stuff that we've been dealing with Health Canada for almost 2.5 years now. While we continue on every day serving the population that we're able to from our limited capacity in the RV, and they ruminate over there in Ottawa about how to say no to us and to come up with some sort of a letter that would be satisfactory for us to just go away. And I'm really appalled by that. Anyway, it's 4:20. That means Glenn Wells is coming in to see us and spend a little bit of time. How you doing, Len?
I'm good. How are you? Oh, I got your thing there. Yeah, I'm gonna move it out of your
setting
way.
up an obstacle course. You're in early, so I'm no charge.
Oh, it says 4:20.
It's 4:20.
Yeah,
Who said it wasn't?
I mean early. Didn't you just say that? Oh, yeah, that's my old hearing, I guess.
It's fun when you get old, man.
You hear lots of stuff.
You hear what you want to hear.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
selective hearing.
I got a bit of a twisted brain, so I hear real funny stuff. I forget what it was earlier today. That's probably not a good way to start on a live show, because now I'm not going to be able to even tell people. Well, there was one of those things today where I thought I heard something different than what I heard.
Oh.
Different than what she said.
Oh.
I went and had my...
That's what she said.
That's what she said. I went and had my barium swallow today.
Yes, you did.
At UBC.
Yeah.
To find out what's going on in my throat. So it was really interesting to be able to see on the screen there, a shot of the inside of my whole throat and head area as I, tried to swallow some things that they gave me to swallow there. Not much satisfaction today, other than at least things are progressing. And I've got, an appointment. I've an appointment with the gastroenterologist on March 27th.
But now you can go with
and now he'll be armed with the information that they got from what happened today.
Yeah, that'll help.
But what they did do today was they confirmed that there's definitely something there, because apparently some people just think there is and there isn't.
Okay.
So there is something definitely obstructing.
I got one, thanks.
You got one.
Yeah.
But it's also down low, and it's lower than what they're optimistic about being able to help me with.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see. I'm not to believe anything yet. I'll just have to see. Start solid food in restaurants, and the smell of cooked food is starting to really...
Well, you can still do it if it's blended, right?
Oh, yeah, I know. That's going to stop doing it for me pretty soon, too. I think
so?
I don't know.
You've come up with some pretty good contraptions
If I have to resolve myself to a liquid diet, then I guess I'll do that. And I'll make it work.
Yeah, make it work.
But for a guy that was a fussy eater in the first place, I can only order a couple, 3 things off any menu in a restaurant to begin with. And now to not even have that option and be cut down to what it is that's going to work in the blender. Well, life gets a little more complicated as we go.
Well, I just saw this on Facebook. There was an advertisement, but they have a portable blender that you can take with you to work and stuff like that. They're advertising at work, so you can blend your own stuff and just drink your own drink, right? So
I did get a heavy-duty thermos that apparently will keep my steak and mushroom juice warm, because it is much better warm.
I guess so. Lots of things are much better warm.
Chicken.
Bodies are much better warm.
Some things are better cold, like ice cream. But chicken noodles juice.
Yeah.
Not better cold.
No,
No, better warm.
No.
Goes down a lot better when it's warm. Oh, life can be fun. And if what else can you do?
So it looks like we're gonna have some nice weather for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's going to be like plus 15, plus 16. So,
wow.
Yeah. Today's supposed to be the last day, chance of rain, and it's going to be sunny and warm for the next few days.
So this Friday, coming up at Thornton Park, our favorite little park, there's going to be St. Patrick's Day Weed Festival.
With the Weed Fairy.
With the Weed Fairy.
Yes.
I will be there educating as best I can, throughout the day, boring the heck out of people. There's going to be live bands that are playing there. There'll be lots of vendors and things cannabis, and maybe some of the wee little people running around too. You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
It is a day of green.
You might find a 4-leaf clover while you're out there looking in the grass.
Or 5-leaf cannabis leaf.
Or a 7-leaf.
Yeah.
You never know. I'm sure there's all those things there, Faith and Dora. Anyway, that's bad.
Make sure to wear your green.
Yeah. Wear green. I learned something.
Yeah.
There are no green hats for sale in China.
Why?
No one would buy them.
Why?
Because if you're wearing a green hat, apparently you're making the statement that your wife has cheated on you.
Oh, really?
Which I don't, and I guess people don't, and they're very polite, so they don't. It's a cultural thing.
Wow.
So a green hat, because they don't do St. Patty's Day.
No.
And
because of that.
And maybe because of that.
Maybe,
we ain't wearing the green hats. You know, don't want anybody thinking my wife cheated on me. I don't know, weird. There's weird customs all over the place.
There's different ones everywhere.
Like look at here in Canada, they got this weird culture that it's illegal for people that want to get off of opioids to get access to high dose cannabis. You can go and get high dose whiskey or tequila.
Yeah.
You can go and buy cigarettes. You just poison yourself right off the bat with those things. Lots of people die from that shit. They're available easily everywhere for anybody that's old enough to get them, and even those that aren't, as we all know. So that's a cultural quirk of Canada, that they would restrict access to high dose edibles.
Another one is that you can buy cigarettes at the drugstore up front, but you have to walk to the back of the store to get any pharmaceuticals. Anything that was going to help you, that they prescribe for you, you have to go to the back of the store.
So Tilroy is not just a cannabis company now; it's a cannabis, alcohol, and pharmaceutical company.
Really? How did that come about?
I don't know. Big boys doing powerful things behind the doors and making deals work and shit.
They made a pharmaceutical company?
Pharmaceutical and alcohol.
Maybe then they're going to try to produce something for cancer.
They're being sued, though.
Are they?
They're being sued by there's a few different lawsuits going on. The one in particular is taking them to task on what their previous CEO had to say about the fortunes of the company coming up here.
Yeah.
And, it was either real ignorance or it was actually a blatant cover-up of not wanting to let people know. What did they lose? 61.6 million in the last quarter that they reported. Their company's lost another 61.6 million.
What's the cause of this?
I have no idea.
Well, you said there's some sort of cover-up or something.
Well, there was a cover-up as far as what the company's fortunes were going to be. So the company had an idea that they were going to be losing 61.6 million, but when they presented to shareholders, there was a much more optimistic view of what was going to be happening in the future. Had they been told that coming up in the next quarter, it looked like there was going to be relatively huge losses, a lot of people would have dumped their stock, right?
Yeah.
But instead, the CEO got up there and said that hey, things are looking good, so hang on to those stocks.
Yeah.
That sort of thing there.
Yeah.
But, the corruption that's running through this whole industry that they brought in here, this so-called legalization, this fake legalization, is just, it's so ridiculous. I don't know. I'm really not a very happy person today.
No.
Getting that letter from Health Canada, I guess, another opportunity. I view all these things as opportunities. It's unfortunate, but here I have another opportunity to try to explain to Health Canada why it is that they need to support what we're doing here. I'm going to tap the shoulders of some of the luminaries that support what we're doing here, some of those people that already wrote us letters for our previous application, and we'll see what we can do to put some pressure on Health Canada. There's something else with that as well, and that is that you can get an exemption from the Cannabis Act if what you're doing satisfies like one of three different areas.
Yeah.
And if it's in the name of public safety, in the public's interest, or if it's for research. Well, once again, I'm going to take this opportunity to explain to Health Canada why what we're doing is definitely in the public's interest. Mm-hmm. It's all about public health and safety, and that as far as research goes, well, we are a hub of data that's coming in all the time. We do collect some of that data, but we have not been collecting it as well as we could, but we can. Mm-hmm. So I don't know of anywhere that Health Canada could turn to get the type of data that we would provide for them here with respect to having access to these hundreds of people that are trying to transition off of hard drugs onto cannabis and all the things. We can provide this as a research opportunity for Health Canada, and if they had any desire to support us, then they would be figuring that out. If their intention was to figure out a way that they could support what we're doing here because we've had such good success for 6 years, then they would figure that out. Mm-hmm. But clearly their intention is to not support what we're doing here, to ignore what they could be doing to help us. Yeah. They've given no suggestions at any point in these last 2.5 years as to how we could have that regulated supply. They just say we need to be using the regulated supply. Because if that means that we have to now purchase off of the licensed producers at those prices that have been set.
Crazy.
And after all those taxes have been imposed, and we're going to be paying those types of prices, well, we can't have $1 a gram cannabis for people.
Yeah, but that's what they don't. That's what they don't want you to do, right? Because you're
without them saying it.
Yes.
That is what clearly is going on.
Cutting their grass.
We're cutting their grass. Yeah. So literally, eh?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, this is non-government weed. Nah.
Mine too.
And you can bring your non-government weed down to St. Paddy's Day on Friday at Thornton Park,
there,
and you can make up a sign that says Health Canada sucks, or whatever else you want to say about this. And I'm sure there's much more creative things that we could say about all this.
Says non-government weed for sale.
To assign death to our human family members, which is what they're doing by continuing to restrict and limit access to high dose edibles. Is just it's so bad. We need to protest about that. Mm-hmm. So we got St. Paddy's Day coming up to protest, but we also got the big one coming up at 420.
Yeah,
very excited.
It's getting big.
It's getting big.
Getting big.
Yeah, it was looking big for a while.
65 pounds big.
Wow, that's the biggest joint ever in the whole wide world. Right?
Yeah.
I talked to Dale today.
Yeah.
He's gonna on Friday. He's gonna be delivered the practice paper.
Yeah.
So, what was the name of that paper company?
Empire.
So, Empire Papers is supplying the papers.
Or Emporium or something. No, Empire. Okay, good. You got it right. Yeah. I don't know.
That will be corrected shortly.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're going to do a practice one next week, or they said on the 26th, I think is when
26th, yeah.
They're getting together.
Next week, yeah.
Is that next week
20th
already?
Is one Monday, so probably a week this Saturday.
They're gonna practice rolling the world's biggest joint.
Uh-huh.
And then they're coming here to do it for real in front of the Guinness Book of World Records people. And there's opportunity there to be involved. They can't tell you exactly what that is yet, but there is some opportunity for people if they want to be involved with rolling that huge joint, or sparking that big joint, or I think the roach is going to be given to somebody too.
Really, eh? That's a 65-pound roach.
It'll be about a foot in diameter.
Wow, but I don't
know how long
the snowblower leaves of it.
There's probably about a pound of weed involved in that.
Maybe,
more.
wow.
No, more. If it's 35 feet and there's 65 things, this means there's 2 pounds per foot. If the roach is a foot long, there's 2 pounds in there.
I would think that maybe the snowblower might be able to burn it all away.
No, they're not going to on purpose.
Oh, they're not going to on purpose?
Yeah, there's going to be a roach left over on purpose.
Wow. So to make it like a trifecta, the world's largest roach?
Probably. Most resinous roach. And then there's that.
And then they'll have to call it cannabis roach because somebody will say, well, I've got a roach that's bigger than that. Right, a cockroach.
All of these records are designed to be beaten one day.
Yes, they are.
They always will be for sure.
Yeah.
This year it's going to be set here in Vancouver, which is pretty awesome. We're also going to be using some of that joint to fuel and fill the world's greatest hot box.
Yep.
40
world's
feet
greatest or world's biggest?
I don't know. I don't know what that one is. I'm going to say the world's greatest.
All right, you say that.
It may well be the world's biggest, but who knows?
It could be. Yeah.
There could be whole warehouses that have been hotboxed, and people would say, "Hey, I hotboxed the whole warehouse."
Yeah, but not purposely with.
But how much weed did you put into there? How much smoke did you generate? I think on YouTube it's the world's greatest hotbox that we did up on Kingsway there with Mark.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. You couldn't see
the world's greatest or the world's largest. We'd have to look it up. Yeah.
I think it's called the World Record Hotbox.
It could be
that one on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you look that one up.
Yeah. I can't. My phone's over there.
And don't be alarmed when you're watching it. It's not your screen that's all gone foggy. It was just the event.
A lot of fucking cannabis and stuff. We use pucks to burn it.
Yeah, concentrates.
The pucks. Yeah.
And then so much concentrates put onto those.
And then we
pucks.
had those turkey trays and aluminum ones filled with weed and stuff. That's what was causing everybody laying off all the smoke and stuff. It was something else.
That was something else. We did have some fun.
Yeah.
It was a demonstration.
Yeah.
It was a private demonstration, not a public demonstration. We didn't do it at 420 and invite just anybody up to see if they could take the most massive hit or anything like that. We don't ever do that. But, a bunch of us, people in the industry, people that are,
I was there.
Professionals, I guess we would call us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went there and sealed up the room real good, and then lit all that stuff into smoke and stood and tried to see each other. You know?
Isabel's mom was there.
Yeah.
I was dating her at that time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a good event. But this is going to be 40 feet by 40 feet.
It's going to be bigger.
That's huge.
It's massive.
That's massive.
It's going to take them 8 hours to roll it too, apparently, or get it prepared or whatever, isn't it? Something like that?
From 10 until 2:30.
Oh, 10 until 2:30,
4.5 hours, something like that.
So they'll be
They'll
ready
know
for
a lot more after the practice run.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll see about that. So prior to the world's biggest joint being lit, and then some of that smoke being pumped in to the world's greatest hot box, there will be, I would imagine Spicoli is going to be there with his,
we'll have to reach out to him.
Already the people that are doing the biggest joint, they're going to be bringing that type of machine as well, so that they can get that hot box going. So it'll be going all day long. You can go in there. Part of the proceeds are going to go to, I think, the Cannabis Substitution Program on that one.
Some of them, yep.
We could use that here. Would help us a lot.
Especially with the legal problems, it'll help with that too, won't it?
Well, yeah, that's not really the CSP. That's more the Healing Wave.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But we're going to be raising funds for that as well. I was optimistic. Of course, that's because I'm an optimist.
Yeah. I'm a humanist.
I try to be a realist about things, but
yeah.
I do tend to be more optimistic than turns out to be reality sometimes. I just can't believe how corrupt things are sometimes, you know. And so I was optimistic that Health Canada might grant us some sort of a license or an exemption or something before the court date, and that would affect that. Yeah. Instead,
but they probably wrote that just because they found out that you've been saying that you've been not told no yet. For which you haven't been told no yet. You're just
they still haven't said no, and I'm going to make it as difficult as I can for them to say no, because why the hell would they say no?
How long did it take them to respond to that first refusal?
Well, we submitted it September 2nd.
September. So
October, November, December, January, February, March. So it took them 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, a little over 6 months to respond to that.
Mine was in July and I've had no response.
Well, now I got another 25 days.
But yours was an easy letter to say no, or they want to just do it again, right? So yeah, so it'll be another 8 months.
It's just ridiculous. It's just delay. What's the intent is to say no.
You know what? Even if by the time that you respond, and 6 months later, it'll be after the constitutional challenge, because that October is the 10th month. You're going to respond by
and then they'll do what they always do, is they'll wait and see what happens in the courts.
They'll see what happens, yeah. So
we know that they're involved with what the Crown Council is doing, in the charges against us.
Yeah.
Why was that? Something about they tested the weed that they seized from us.
Oh yeah,
Health Canada did.
And it was.
Well, they didn't have any complaints apparently. They probably used human testing, because they were having those post-COVID parties.
Human testing. So, I'm a human tester every day.
Yeah, it's a very valid way to test things. Yep. It really is.
It is.
And so I would imagine they were doing their due diligence.
Yeah, sure.
Oh man. So an unfortunate thing happened. Not really. I mean, of course. And my condolences to the family of Dr. Mechulin, the Israeli researcher, the scientist who discovered the endocannabinoid system. He discovered the differences between THC and CBD. He actually came up with Durobinol, the synthetic cannabinoid, or THC. But he was responsible for a lot of good on the science end of things. Israel has been one of the leaders in medical cannabis studies and also, I guess, access to their people and things like that.
He lived here. He's 92. He must have been
93.
93. He must have been using cannabis.
I would imagine he was using cannabis,
Yeah, keep him going, right?
After having discovered the endocannabinoid system, and I listened to many of his presentations there. I mean, he was certainly an expert on the value and the function of the endocannabinoid system. So that I'm sure he would have been using that, and probably that is why he lived to be 93. He hadn't retired.
Yeah.
He had no thought of retiring.
No.
somewhere around 100 maybe, you know.
Maybe.
But yeah, he was still going strong. He had Parkinson's, and he died from complications from Parkinson's.
Okay.
But I know another fellow, John, that comes to visit me here sometimes from the Yukon, and he's as old as a fossil.
Oh, really? That old?
And he's so old.
Old as a fossil.
Old as a fossil.
That's fucking old,
and,
buddy.
We
gotta have him down for the 420 event too.
I might have him on the show, and he's going to write his story is being documented by the doctors that he's been working with, because I didn't understand this, that he's had Parkinson's for 30 years.
Wow.
And he's still driving a vehicle. He's still licensed to drive. And he definitely credits cannabis for that. He's been using shatter and the extract, the full extract cannabis oil, the FECO.
Yeah.
So for a long time.
FECO.
Well, you know, it's FECO or FECO. It doesn't matter.
You know, the E is A or whatever.
I think there's some people who think that it probably sounds a bit too much like something else.
Oh, you mean yes.
So you know,
fecal waste or whatever.
Just to not confuse the issue, it's FECO.
Oh, gotcha.
But we know that shit's good.
That shit's good. That's it. Pardon the pun, right? We smoke that shit.
Over here.
We smoke that shit.
They put that shit in everything.
Shit. Yeah.
The medical patients do anyway.
Yeah, I take full extract cannabis oil every night. 2 capsules.
And you know, there's science being undertaken about that, because there's many different ways to produce that depending on what strains of cannabis you're using, what the different concentrations of the different cannabinoids are, and so that, I mean, you could have a FECO product that was designed specifically to help you sleep, which would be high-end CBN.
Yeah.
You could have a high-end CBD for other things. You could have high-end, you know, and numerous other different strains, so that tailoring the actual chemical composition of the FECO is going to be the new science in the days to come. And then you could take it also in pill form. You don't have to have it in the syringe.
Yeah, I think in pill form.
Yeah,
and syringe too, but I prefer the pill form.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would. So that there's something that will be in huge demand down the road as people come to understand the value of that.
Yeah, as long as they don't put any additives in it, because right now it's just extract.
Full extract cannabis oil. Yeah.
We don't need anything so they can make less of the oil in the pill and send another filler or something, right?
Well, some standardization would be great.
Yes.
It would be wonderful to have that.
To do that.
To have that with edibles as well, having some standardization of dosage and what the dosage actually means. All those things are great and wonderful, not to the exclusion of people making edibles at home for themselves or for family and friends or whatever, not to the exclusion of people also making concentrates and other things themselves if they want to take the cannabinoids off the cannabis plant. We're adults. We can figure out safe ways to do these things, especially if the government promoted, you know, safe extracting, safe edibles to some degree. But, you know, we've never really had any serious problems at all to do with people making their own edibles. It's not been an issue. Medical patients have been using high-dose edibles that they're manufacturing themselves for a long, long time.
People's
and all it does is help them.
Hash brownies and stuff like that for since the 60s and 50s probably too, right?
So. It's like everything to do with cannabis. Not only has there not been any problems, there's been a whole hell of a lot of people that have been helped profoundly.
Yeah, oh yeah. Myself being one, you being one.
The government's resistance to understand and accept and support cannabis as a commodity in our marketplace is just it speaks to the level of corruption that's going on here, and you can see that by the legalization that they've brought in and imposed on us here, where only rich people get to have proper access to cannabis, and even then it's not proper because you still can't get the high dose edibles.
No.
But the poor people that should be able to access cannabis is simply a plant that grows and produces more biomass per cubic meter than any other plant. Farmers would be bringing cannabis to the marketplace that was not grown indoors under lights and wasn't trimmed properly and all the rest of it as a raw product and a commodity at pennies on the pound, like we for everything else that we have going on here in our society, where with grapes and blueberries and strawberries. It's simply this history of prohibition and lies that have caused the inflated price to be there in the underground marketplace because the government was using the heaviest hammer they could to try to annihilate it with the criminal law and people losing their homes and their families and their possessions and their liberty and all the rest of that. So the price was $10 a gram typically in a prohibition world. But then, along comes legalization, and the price doesn't plummet down to where everything else is that farmers grow. They maintain it up there and make it even higher than it was before for anything worth having at the government stores. So
there's not much worth having there because it's recreational, not medical.
I guess, based on that, you'd have to think, right?
Yeah.
But I know that Redbeard's going to say that his products that are available in some of these government stores is really good product.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is or isn't. I've never tried anything that comes from a government store, but I'll take him at his word that he's putting out a good product. He says he's not using those chemicals or irradiating because he manages to keep such a clean room and puts his money into sterilization of the room itself and not the plants and the cannabinoids. So that sounds good. And probably there's good people that are growing. I mean, many of our friends that were cannabis producers, they've all gone legal. Mm-hmm. And so maybe they're putting out good concentrates, and maybe they're putting out good products in those legal stores.
Put concentrates in the stores, do they?
Sure, they have concentrates. They're quite expensive, and they're capped on potency, which is weird. But and there again, it's much more expensive.
More stone than the weed. Like, fuck.
They don't do that with alcohol.
No.
Well,
40%.
That's all you can do?
I think so, but you can get some other stuff like Everclear and stuff like that. There is some 100 proof stuff, yes. Yeah.
Or you can make your own.
I guess you can make your own. Make your own, yeah.
You don't hear much of a fuss about that. I know people make their own alcohol. and serious hard alcohol, too.
Really,
especially in this neighborhood. And some of the indigenous people. I shouldn't even say that.
Well, they do that in jail, too. They make their own alcohol with the fruits and stuff.
You can do it, rot some berries, get some yeast, get a container. You too can poison your brain.
And still,
Go out on a Friday night with less brain cells than you had on the Thursday night. See how you feel on the Saturday.
Well, they did have some news about alcohol. Apparently, the people in the 40s and 30s are not cutting down because the government suggested that they did, but the younger generation is. The up and coming, they've had a reduction in alcohol intake, they said. So maybe it's
they come up with new guidelines for alcohol. How about that? I wonder how they're going to enforce that. Is that going to be something like the way they enforce cannabis regulations and restrictions? I don't think so. What they've done is they've just said, hey, we figured out that more than 2 drinks a week is not good for you. Mm-hmm. So, people have their own opinion of what's good for them or what's not. I mean, Uncle Frank lived to be 96. He drank every day, right?
Yeah.
And, whatever. I don't have an Uncle Frank. I made that up. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You can say, okay, well, so what? So 4 drinks a week or 10 drinks a week is not good for me.
Yeah.
But, I'm probably not living to be 100 anyway. So
people say, well, that doesn't affect me. I'll just do what I want anyways. Right?
Or young people. And I shouldn't, just label the young with this because, older people are rebellious as well.
Well,
they don't like being told they can't do something.
Yeah.
They don't like, if they're told that something's dangerous, well, when you're old like me, then you stay away from it. But prior to that, it would always be like, oh yeah, well, I can handle danger. Let me at it. I'm powerful.
Somebody's asking a question.
Uh-huh.
It says it's legal for anybody to use organic solvent to extract essential oil for any legal plant. What?
Is it? No, she's making a statement.
It's
It's legal. Yeah. But don't use it on cannabis, apparently.
Yeah. Illegal for humans to use the exact same process to extract the essential oil from cannabis without a license from Health Canada. Wow.
This whole thing is so riddled with hypocrisy all the way through. They can't have it anywhere near a school. You can't have it for sale. You can't have it visible and all the rest of that. Well, commercial tobacco is a known killer of human beings. There's very little redeeming value. It's highly addictive, and that's well known. And yet it's available all over the place in gas stations and grocery stores and drug stores. You name it, and they can be right across from schools. They can be all clustered together, and it can be promoted. Now, they've restricted some advertising on cigarettes these days. I mean, it used to be all over our sports cars and other things.
Rothmans and
the
pictures of Joe Campbell smoking the cigarette up on the billboard and stuff like that.
It used to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And now they've cut back on a lot of that, and the reason for that is because the stats came in, the health news, the health stats came in. that stuff's killing people, and not just killing people, but it's making their life miserable before they die. In many cases, they can't breathe properly. The problems associated with smoking commercial tobacco are the number one reason for hospital admissions in Canada. So there's just a huge hypocrisy there. That there's the one smoking product that is obviously causing great harm to individuals and our society in the form of costs. And then there's this other one that they keep saying that it does, but it's all done, but it doesn't. Well, there's nothing to back it up.
Right, they can't promote something that they said was bad for you and tell you that it's good now.
That seems to be the case.
So let's do this alcohol and tobacco and
our public servants seem to be like the little boy that got caught, and now he's going to lie about it to try to get away with it, and you know.
And make it to the point where it's not medical when you buy it from a store from them, because it's
doing everything they can to try to support their position.
Good,
you know,
make them look good, right? Yeah.
And it's all just hypocrisy. Yeah. Like, you don't have to look very far to see that. Like we just mentioned, there's this commercial tobacco, which, you know, smoke one, smoke the other. This one will do this one will do this. Which one should be a crime?
Well, they say smoking blends have been available in head shops as filler for years.
Well, and what are they saying about that? What's the point of that?
That's I don't know. I guess because you're talking about smoking like tobacco, I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do it. I recommend against it. You do whatever you want as a human being. That's fine. I may be wrong. I may be out to lunch, and maybe it only affects certain people, and that's not you, and whatever.
Well, my mom happens to be one of those people.
Your weed and the tobacco
for 60 some odd years, and no cancer. Didn't get COVID either or anything like that, but then there's some studies that say tobacco was helping fight that or something.
I mean, the statistics are that there's issues to do with people smoking tobacco.
Yeah.
It seems to be, and it makes sense to me, that if you're combining cannabis with tobacco, because the tobacco, it has the chemicals, the things that are causing problems. And the cannabis opens up your bronchia when because it's an expectorant, so it activates the cilia. It causes your sensitive areas to open up, and then if you've got now the tobacco chemicals in there going on, well, that's typically not good. And that, you know, I tell people that's my opinion, you know, but everybody does whatever they want to do. But so I'm not sure what the point is about having tobacco products mixed with cannabis products in the stores there. I mean, that's just a consumer choice.
Yeah.
Everything should probably be available. The marketplace should decide. But if there's a need for warnings, those warnings should be there. And if it becomes a problem in society, then the government needs to step in and do an advertising campaign, some way of making sure that at least the person that's purchasing that product understands that there's some potential problems with that.
Yeah.
But they can't tell you can't have refined sugar products. They can't tell you can't buy, you know, pesticides or, you know, so many other things, body deodorant stuff that's got, I mean, many of these things have a downside to them. We just need to understand as functioning human beings how to deal with this stuff.
Moderation.
Yeah, and if you don't figure it out, then you're going to learn the hard way, and that's how a lot of people learn, and that's just that for that. It's not up to the government to make it so that you never get to learn the hard way, because they're not going to let anybody take any chances with anything. What kind of a world is that? We need to be able to take chances with things. We need to be able to learn for ourselves about things. And if there's things that need to be known, then sure, the government's role is to make sure that they're known as best as possible, with maybe warnings on the label or advertising campaigns about it or whatever, which they do about lots of different things. But this whole, scare tactic around cannabis is just completely insane and unjustified.
Yeah.
That they're concerned about diversion.
Was it going to take them 100 years to say, "Oh, sorry, we were wrong"?
Yeah,
because it's already been 100 years already.
I hope it's not another 100 years.
Yeah.
100 years is already way too much. So yeah, it's
crazy.
It's so hypocritical.
Yeah, they like to lie.
And they're harming a lot of people in the process still. That's the biggest problem of all. There's still the continued stigmatization, which is still a real issue, with people still really looking down at people using cannabis and other drugs as well. And that's just because of government policy and the way this has all gone. But yeah. So, hypocrisy out the yin-yang, man.
Let's call them bastards. Sorry, Eddie Barb.
Yeah, she's probably okay with that one.
She's okay with that one? All right, okay.
So those other ones I use every once in a while.
Well, we seem to get her into the show every week, so I just throw her name out there.
Yeah. I'm sure she'll want her cut down the road. I mean, I'm sure she'll appreciate it down the road somewhere.
So we got some nice weather coming for Friday. So if you want to spend a spring break day, if your kids are home from school and you got nothing to do, it's gonna be nice and in a public.
That's right. It's spring break time.
It is. Yeah, we're for 2 weeks. Some are a week, some are 2 weeks. But
so careful when you're driving out there.
Yep. Lots of kids are out there.
We are into daylight savings time again now.
Oh, I know.
Well, so now it's dark in the mornings and a little later at nighttime.
Yeah, and later. So when we actually finish the show, it'll be light tonight.
Really glad to see spring coming. I saw some flowers spreading, some trees are.
We got some buds growing on the rose bush already and everything. Nice. Yeah, leaves are coming out. Right.
That was a bit of a harsh winter.
Yeah, we've seen worse.
I don't know if I don't remember seeing a winter that cold. Well, if you're from Ontario.
Well, cold, yeah. Yeah,
we've had more snow than that, although that was quite a pretty big. But
last year's wind minus 40 was pretty fucking
right.
We
had bursts of cold. We had cold snaps and things, but this just seemed like more cold and longer.
Well, that's good then.
Maybe I'm just getting.
Maybe it'd be less global warming and we got more cold. Can't say that now, right?
Yeah, just try to have a gentle footprint on the planet and don't worry too much about the rest, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless you're in the fields where those things matter, and then I hope you're working towards innovative ways of cleaning up the oceans and keeping the temperatures what it should be.
Well, my theory is that the planet was tropical before the ice age, so the planet is just taking its way back, and it takes a long time for it to get back there. So
one thing that's consistent on this planet is climate changing. The climate just changes.
Yeah. And, that's why they have weathermen.
Well,
no.
That's a day-to-day thing. I'm talking more on a geological scale, where over the course of a couple hundred years or 1,000 years, there's lots of things that happen there. There's ice ages that can happen. There's I mean, in 1,000 years, a couple hundred's not, but you never know.
Well, it used to be so cold at the Bering Strait that actual people who traveled apparently from Europe across that ice and came to Canada, right? The nomads or something like that, right? So,
it could happen.
It gets pretty cold,
Winter could arrive one year and then just not go away. Oh. And I guess we've entered into an ice age.
Wow, yeah.
So, I mean, you just never know.
Yeah, but the ice age was only caused because of this clouds or the smoke or whatever from the earth had blocked the sun, right? So the sun always comes out.
We live in a fragile universe.
Yes. Oh, that's true. That's true, yeah.
You never know what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
They can't track a lot of things coming from the direction of the sun. They're pretty good at some things, but they're not as good as what you would think they are about some other things.
Yeah.
And even who knows? There's so many things that can happen on this planet, or in any individual's particular life, like what's going on. Little minor things. There's wars going on. There's bombs going off. There's fires happening. Had a fire over there the other night. And,
I know. I heard on the news.
A tent burnt right to the ground.
Dan, somebody's tent burned down, and the neighbors beside.
Whoever was there wasn't there.
Yeah.
So they had left their little heater on inside the tent, and it was a propane heater. Those things can't get close to cloth or fabric or things like that, and so something caught fire in there. Wow. They had the tent up on wooden pallets.
Wow.
So once the wooden pallets got going,
that's it.
Now you got quite a fire going on there, not just the fabric of the tent. So thank goodness nobody was in that.
Yeah.
But these things can happen. Life is fragile, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, I'm just getting soppy now for a minute, and just, I like to do that once in a while. I hope everybody's wide awake and appreciating, just how valuable life is, how precious and amazing that it is here. Don't know how we got to be what we are. And here like this,
don't know where we're going.
The journey seems to be quite incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That there's life, that there's intelligent life.
Yeah.
The way that we are, wow. I wish I had more than whatever amount of years I get. I'm glad I've had as many as I've had. I'm in bonus time for sure.
You're
I feel
thankful.
that. But I don't want this to end. I want to continue to be able to experience life. What a thing! But there's been what did Mr. Tyson say? DeGrasse Tyson say there's been 100 billion. So over the course of since humans became upright and human, basically, there's been about 100 billion that have come and gone. There's about 8 billion right now.
Wow.
So
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and you get your little tiny slice of time.
Yeah.
And then you move on. And if you had a son or a daughter, then maybe your line gets to continue on.
I've had that.
So.
Yep.
It's a special thing.
Yep.
To be alive. There might not be much intelligence out there.
Well, I think there is. It's a pretty big, vast
that's the thing. That's the reason you would think it is.
Yes. Because come on.
What has happened? What has happened at the very beginning of things here? And I apologize to people who think that it was an entity that went, I'm creating all these animals, and now I'm going to create a man, and now I'm going to take a rib and make a woman, or whatever. Those are myths, in my opinion. We have evolved here. It looks like for billions of years. For the first 3 billion or so years, we were simply microbes, single-celled organisms, and then there started to be a combination of these single-celled organisms into more multi-celled organisms, and eventually to us. But to start all of that, it was amino acids, which are common in nature. They occur commonly in nature, apparently. They've been found on asteroids, and so amino acids are there. Huh. So what happens is if amino acids combine themselves, and there's like hundreds of different shapes of amino acids, if with the right combination of these amino acids in like a train happens, and then it almost instantly within milliseconds folds itself and becomes a protein, it can become that special protein that is able to replicate itself, and then on goes the journey of life from there.
Wow, eh?
But to have those amino acids combine themselves like that and then fold like that, they estimated how many times it would take by chance for that to happen. Mm-hmm. And the number is exceedingly huge compared to actually the formula of how much time there is, which is trillions and trillions of years for this universe to exist. Yeah. And how many actual bodies are out there that could support life. So how many suns are there? If 400 billion stars is typical for a galaxy, and there's 2 trillion galaxies in the known universe, and we're not just talking about the planets that would be surrounding those stars that are in the habitable zone, but also the moons, the asteroids, the other...
There's got to be life.
So,
may not be.
But I'm just telling you, the math that they did on it was that there's now X amount of these potential bodies that could support life. Yeah. There's X or Y amount of time over the course of the life of the universe before it all just becomes, entropy takes over completely, and there's just very little energy anywhere. It's all spread out, so there's nothing left. Pretty much, which everything's there except it's just all spread out and there's nothing really moving. In that length of time, with that amount of possibilities, it's still just a fraction of how much time the other formula says would take for those to combine the way that they do and become proteins that can replicate. So something happened here that allowed that to happen quicker than it should have by their calculations, and in ways that defy logic. Basically, there's something very mysterious about how life has grown here, and so maybe that mysterious force that caused life to grow here is also available elsewhere in the universe, and so therefore there may well be. But in our case, it's taken 4 billion years, and there's some argument whether we've achieved intelligent life at all yet.
Well, there was also that show Battlestar Galactica, where they were human beings looking for us, our planet. Right. So, and they were from other planets, so that could be quite possible too.
Well,
right?
because of the distances involved, I'm not sure that is, but we may in the future figure out ways to traverse those distances.
I'm going on the lines of Star Trek. Now we have the earpiece. We have a communicator.
Sure.
Right? So there's a show that says there was a 13th, we were the 13th tribe, and they were looking for us, right? So things have come through that way. Yeah, but so, like I'm just saying, somebody could have had a true story somehow, or I don't know, not a true story, but yeah. We'll see. Yeah.
Far be it from me to decide whether or not it's possible for there to be ways to traverse the universe in ways that make sense. But the vastness between stars, 5 light years, which is probably the average distance between any two stars within a galaxy formation. It's on average about 5 light years.
Half a year?
Well, it's like 3 trillion miles or something, 1 light year.
Okay. But how long does it take to travel 1 light year?
A year. So at the speed of light, at 186,000 miles per second.
Okay.
At 186,000 miles per second.
Yeah.
In 1 year, you would have traveled several trillion.
Wow.
Kilometers or 3 trillion miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just like that.
It's a lot.
It's light.
It's light, although it's
fast.
We think it's fast here.
Yeah.
But out in the universe, it's not really that fast. It's actually kind of slow.
Is it?
It takes 8 minutes
so is that
for the light to get
speed.
Well, and there you go. Are there going to be warp speeds that would increase to the? They say you can't go faster than the speed of light, but maybe you could create a warp bubble that could. And they actually say the expansion of space is happening at faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
So that's interesting as well. These things are getting farther away from us if you're trying to get to them, for one thing. Galaxies, not within the galaxy, but the galaxies themselves are expanding as space expands into farther and farther away from us. And the farther out you go, the faster they're moving away from us, which is very strange. It's all very strange.
It is.
It's all very,
and
very
there's black holes out
and that's
there
my
too.
point, right?
We don't know where the black holes go to.
They're not really holes. I was reading that the other day.
Oh, really?
Well,
they're not?
And then there's dark energy, and then there's dark matter, too. Two other very different things.
The dark side.
The dark side.
The dark side.
Probably misnamed, but there seems to be an energy that has the galaxies orbiting faster than what they should, based on the mass that's there and what they should be able to do. And so this is the dark energy that they talk about that's propelling these things and causing the expansion of the space within which we live. So all of that is so very strange and amazing and awesome that's my point. Is try not to take it too much for granted that you're a human being and that it's just what is. It's not just what is. We're extremely incredible, special creatures, each and every one of us as individuals, with a super long history, each and every one of us individuals, that goes back right to the beginning of life on this planet. Like through all those billions of years, we are the descendants of life that continued to procreate and procreate and procreate and procreate for millennia on end. Holy shit. We bring to this present moment a lot of that experience in the form of our genetics, and what's within us, our minds, and what's within that, our instincts that we have been developed over millions and millions of years through transitions through many different forms of body. Our ancestors, apparently, for those who know these things, and I just trust that they're telling the truth from what their research is, but we were kind of like a mouse, a tree shrew of some sort. Our very far back during the time of the dinosaurs, that then survived what the dinosaurs didn't, and have gone on to form all these different mammalian body types, from us to cows to dolphins to elephants to all these different things. It's an incredible experience here on this planet, how the environments shape the life forms that evolve and adapt here.
There's a lot of life forms.
So many. Oh man. I watched these YouTube videos just in the last few days. They've had quite a few on the shorts. About taking tiny little drops of this and that and seeing what's in it, in dew, in stagnant rainwater, in tap water. there is so much life going on.
Oh yeah, micro life, right?
Micro life.
Yeah.
Tiny little eyedropper underneath a magnifying glass of just something that's been sitting stagnant on little puddle that's been sitting on a pool plastic top, all winter long, and then take just a little and put it on, and then you look in there. And there's all this shit going on. It looks like one of those video games where they got all those spaceships flying around. And this one's eating that one, and this one's chasing that one, and those two are having sex over there. Seriously.
That's cool, eh?
Like on the microscopic level. And they know their food source, and they look for it.
There's lots of like microscopic stuff going all over your body too, probably, right?
So. A million microscopic animals per square inch on human bodies.
Wow.
A million.
Wow.
And it's not just in the little droplets of water everywhere and every body of water everywhere where all of this stuff is. It's in the soil. It's in the dirt. It's in the rock. It's like when you look right down close, there's a whole bunch of living stuff at the microscopic level.
We have the living soils. Some people are growing cannabis in living soils, right?
And the air that we breathe is full of this stuff as well. So,
wow, eh?
Yeah, what a living environment that we are in here.
Yeah.
That's been going on for all this time, and we're just a tiny little blip in that timeline that's going to go on no matter what we do for a long time.
The big blue marble.
The big blue marble. What's going on there?
There's a lot happening here. All different kinds of forms of life and everything,
And the Fermi paradox is that why have we not detected any other civilization that would have been putting out radio signals, at least, that would be detectable?
Because we haven't developed equipment to pick up those signals.
Well, we've developed some pretty damn good equipment.
We have.
And some very good techniques in doing that.
We might get there eventually one day, right?
We might. Right. But so far, the paradox is we haven't. And that's, there's not a shred of evenence to show.
If we were to refer back to Star Trek and stuff, those things had repeaters. So the signal would be sent from the starship to the repeater, which would eventually get to where it was going, right? So that could be a reason too, is that there's not a strong signal from any other planet that we can pick up without a bunch of repeaters, right?
That's kind of true too. The distances are so vast.
That's so vast. That's why we're not picking up.
Like we've been broadcasting into space for 100 years or more now. That's just 100 light years from here, and by the time it's 100 light years away, those signals have degraded, quite considerably. Although they would be detectable, and especially if they had good detecting equipment. But 100 light years is not that far. There's not that many stars within that 100 light year radius there.
I wonder why we always think that intelligent life will be smarter than us. Right? Because they have more technology. We always think that that if we ever found somebody, I guess because they're flying in a spaceship and we're not, maybe.
I think they understand that the vast majority of life that we might find out there would be not intelligent at all. That we would just find life.
Okay, gotcha.
And maybe life to the point of an animal life that's adapted to their environment to be able to hunt and live and what have you, but not to the point of being able to understand what they're looking at up in the night sky and write down their experiences and pass it on to other generations and then build things, but there might be a plethora of life that gets to sort of those stages. Intelligent life is a whole other step again altogether. But we are only like one chromosome away from an ape.
No.
On the intelligence factor, it's like 1%. I think that we're smarter than the apes on this planet, which are pretty smart for their environment. They sense danger. They read other animals. They know what the sounds are. That they're pretty in tune to their environment. They're pretty smart that way. But we went that extra 1% to get to where we start writing stuff down. We start really analyzing stuff. We start where we are, which is pretty good. But what if the alien entity that we encountered is 5%? Smarter than us.
Well, we know that with time, intelligence comes along, right? We've all got smarter since cavemen,
to some degree. But I think it actually operates in ups and downs and flexibles. I think that a lot of the technology that built the pyramids, for example, and many of these megalithic structures around the globe, I think we've lost a lot of those technologies. I think that the people that came after them tried to duplicate what was done, but really had lost somehow those understandings. I don't know. I don't think anybody can tell you really how those huge multi-ton stones were put where the way that they were lifted to those heights, and there's only like 5 machines in the entire world that can lift some of those weights to the heights that they were put at.
I saw an explanation about something like one of the Easter Island statues, right? They said that the giant walked there. So what they figured it out is that the rock was able to pivot. So go like this. They rocked it there. So when they made it say that it walked there, that's exactly what it was kind of doing, was they pivoted it back and forth, right?
Yeah, it's possible.
And also I saw a show about how dogs became about because they're wolves, right? But they checked some DNA in dogs, a bunch of dogs, and they found it has this deformity in their gene, and they call it the friendship gene.
Right.
Now there's the human part of this too, because there's people that are missing that specific gene out of 28 of them or something like that, and the person is really
running wild in the forest.
No, they're really friendly and giving their trust, and they're sort of disabled because of that. But they found the same gene in the human DNA as the dog one. So yeah, and they call it the friendship gene because normally a wolf would be mad or biting at humans and trying to kill them.
Well, in many cases, animals live in a state of fear and always feeling like they're prey.
So somewhere along the line it changed, and they found out a man would feed them and stuff like that, right. And they would develop, right? So
cats as well. I mean, that small domestic breed of cats decided that they could get fed and looked after if they just hung around with the humans and didn't scratch their eyes out all the time.
Yeah. And then they can survive.
But yeah, life is amazing on this planet. It's fragile.
You're a product of your environment, basically, yes, right?
We sure are.
Yeah. Because there's proof right there. But yeah, there's some interesting things coming along. So
we would be quite the case study for any alien that could come here, and and how much could they understand, and how much could they know?
I don't know.
What if there's an actual God who understands all languages and all history, all past, present, and future?
I think that we just gave that power a name. There is that power. There is that energy. We all carry it. We call it our soul, right? And then that energy leaves the capsule that we inhibit or no.
It's a nice thought.
Yeah.
It may or may not be true.
Well,
I don't know.
What about the white light that everybody talks about when they come back from death and stuff like that, and the warmth and the energy? I think it's there.
I don't discount any of that.
I didn't say it was God. They didn't say it was God. They just felt the energy and the warmth and becoming part of that.
There has been lots of stories of people that seem to have still existed once their body was dead and then came back to talk about it.
There's people who can be regressed through hypnosis.
There's that.
Right? That talk about other lives and people that they're not today and stuff.
Some of that stuff is very hard to dispute.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
It kind of makes me think that maybe if there's a chemical imbalance that way, that maybe the transgender people are experiencing some of that. Maybe they're getting the thoughts and feelings of a past life, and this is why they identify as the opposite sex or no sex at all, right?
I'm not commenting on anything.
No, I know, but we're just saying, if they've got that proof, that kind of says, well, hey, maybe there's something going on here, right?
I think that we probably all embody some...
about autistic children or something you said, about cancer and stuff.
Well, not just children.
Yeah.
People that are on the spectrum of autism have less incidence of cancer. And they seem to be able to fight it better than people that aren't on the spectrum.
Because their brain is operating at a higher level?
I think that might be one way to look at it, and probably quite valid. We'll have to figure out what's going on with that.
Wow.
But there's no question that people that are on the spectrum of autism in many cases are able to perform lots of different things, at superior levels to an average person. Like, sit down at a piano and play beautifully without, just self-taught. Lots of things like that, lots of examples of that for sure. And here's another little quirk about them where, like I say, they seem to be able to deal with cancer. Their bodies are more able to deal with cancer than the average person. So there's something going on there. I think that probably what that shows is that the human mind has a lot more capabilities than what we are able to get out of it.
Oh yeah, well we all know that we only use 10%. There's still another 90% there.
Whatever
right?
that means, I don't know about those numbers either. I'm skeptical about just about everything.
Really? Okay.
How much of what we're using. But I do think that we have much amazing more capacity to do things with our minds.
My fun theory was that if that commercial was right, that we're killing brain cells with every joint that we smoke, we've got 90% still left. We can use that 90% and we're going to kill the 10% that we've got.
Well, and I think the science behind the removal of certain brain cells is that it's a reorganization that's going on that makes a person more efficient. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But
I don't know. Welcome to Science and Cannabis. We'll talk about science with cannabis or just science.
We need a new Mr. Machulin or Dr. Machulin to come and lead the way in understanding the
I'm
power
sure
of
he's got
cannabis.
somebody would have been studying.
I'm sure this is going on.
Yes, yes, yeah. There will be a new person, and we'll probably bring in some new ideas, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, I think he inspired a whole lot of other researchers. I've, in fact, met people or heard interviews with people that were inspired by his work. He's done work that's going to live on for a very long time.
Yes.
I mean, not in the sense of trillions of years of the universe, but in the
government could
future.
take some notes from that guy and show that that it is help. Well, they had not in the sense that we're still fighting it.
Well, certainly not enough.
Right? They're not calling it healthy in the stores that they're selling it from. So they could take some notes from this guy or from his stuff, right?
For sure.
Yeah, right.
For sure. No, he's he's one of those professional people that they have to pay attention to. That once his findings have been displayed in a court of law, for example, it gets a lot more weight than someone who's just opinionated, for sure.
Yeah, because he's got a degree, right?
He's done a lot. More than a degree.
Yeah,
and
I'm assuming. Yeah,
he was quite the guy.
Yeah.
He did a lot for the whole species. With respect to understanding cannabis and the endocannabinoid
and not just
system.
Cannabis, right? He did other things too.
He did many other things.
Yeah.
He was a brilliant researcher.
And he lived till 93.
Lived to be 93.
That's pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
That's pretty good. And it must have been because of cannabis.
And working right up to the last day.
Yeah, he knew the benefits of stuff. Right?
But
he had Parkinson's, you said too.
He had Parkinson's.
Right.
And probably staved off to a lot. I mean, by the time you're 93.
Yeah. He should have Parkinson's. Normally would have taken you by then. You wouldn't make it to 93, right?
Most people with Parkinson's don't live to be 93 for sure.
Yeah,
and they don't live well.
No,
it's a tough life when Parkinson's
sets in and takes over your body. The day you die, then there's something that's helping you along the way.
So both him and my friend John, living examples of how they can certainly survive and thrive where others haven't.
Yeah,
and cannabis is a huge part of their regimen. So. Yeah, very good, and man, here we are demonstrating every day about how well cannabis is helping people here, and here we are yet with the government to support what we're doing. We have been demonstrating this through our protest rallies, through 420s and cannabis days for 20 some years here. We built a lot of momentum before the pandemic. And it's time that we regain that momentum and continue the fight forward towards our goals, which have been redefined for us as low barrier access to cannabis, that there needs to be a removal of the overregulation, the ridiculous unjustified restrictions on cannabis, the artificially high price, the taxation that shouldn't be there at all. Cannabis is a commodity that helps people. It saves money for our society when people are using cannabis. They get better sleep, they have better work records. There's a number of reasons why cannabis is a benefit to our society to have people using it as opposed to using cigarettes or as opposed to using alcohol and many other pharmaceutical drugs. So there's no reason for taxation on it. It doesn't need to be taxed like a sin tax, which is pretty much what they're deciding to do there. With the federal government taking its $1 a gram right off the top. Might not sound like a lot, but $1 a gram is $448 for 1 pound of a plant material that is easy to produce, especially if you have an outdoor situation. If you produce it like the farmers produce the other crops that are brought to market, then that's a ludicrous price for something, for sure. And so, and then there's other taxation levels all the way down, and there's other restrictions that cost money, the security, things that have to be implemented by the people that want to grow it and deal with it. All that stuff driving up the cost, and there's no reason for this that makes any sense whatsoever. So the point is, we got to really continue this journey that we've been on for quite a while, all of us that are involved in trying to get cannabis legalized properly. We are certainly not there yet. I think we can safely say that we've achieved a lot in our fight for proper legalization, but we're certainly not there yet, and we certainly cannot settle for what we've been offered here. Granted, nobody's getting a criminal record for small amounts of cannabis on their person, and I'm happy to see that's the case, but the poor people are still priced out of the legal marketplace, forced into the underground marketplace. There's all kinds of problems that go along with that, and all of this is just a result of bad government policy that needs to change. So we need to protest, and we're getting that one spectacular time of the year to do that comes around every April 20th, where we can really make a big fuss about these things, and people will pay attention. I've got an interview tomorrow at 11:30 at Thornton Park there with the City TV. They want to know what's going on, and you can bet I'm going to tell them what's going on. We're very, very unhappy with the state of this so-called legalization, that the very most vulnerable people that should be protected first in the legalization of cannabis are the ones that have been kicked under the bus and left out completely, and it's causing huge problems for medical users. It's got huge problems with respect to our ability to properly fight the opioid crisis, and that's what she's going to hear from me, that we have much to protest about, and we need to do that as loudly as we can. So please come on out and support 420. Unity in the park is what we're hoping for, that we can all come together. And we're a great community of people that,
lots
you know,
of music,
so many good
people,
friends.
Edibles. Oh, you're gonna have a blast.
You're gonna have a blast for sure.
Yeah, as long as the weather cooperates.
I'm told the music is just gonna be sick, whatever that means.
It means it's good. That's apparently sick is good. Yes.
Sick is good.
Yeah, sick is good.
I know. Okay, I'm not that far.
Okay, all right. Well, you're out. Yeah, well.
But I am too far behind to really understand. What these people are talking about, or saying like this is going to be a great concert. It's going to be family friendly, so don't hesitate to bring your kids down there. Certainly not going to see anything more or hear anything more there than what they'd hear on their local cartoon on a Saturday morning. Probably.
Yeah, or in the schoolyard.
In the schoolyard. Let's not go to the schoolyard. Oh my God, this would be so tame. For generations, kids have looked at their parents and gone, "Oh yeah, they don't know dummies. They don't know what's going on."
Anyways, I'm going to go back to the producing thing, and we'll see you next week, sir.
All right.
And Cannabis is still alive.
Yeah, we should talk a little about.
Well, we can. I reapplied for the Google app, and the Apple app is my site has to have an update before we can do the Apple app. So, which is coming along apparently.
So you're going to do an update.
Yeah, they just keep doing an update. But
so
we're getting new registrations. We're getting some affiliates trying to join in. A lingerie company wants to join in and stuff like that. So I got to read that email, but it says coming along.
So will the lingerie be made out of cannabis, or will it have cannabis leaves on it?
Just probably lingerie, right?
Because cannabis can make some nice lingerie. Some of the finer silks,
I have to go read the email. I haven't read it. I just glanced over it. So
there's a hint for some of you lingerie companies. Have a hemp line.
Yeah, have a hemp line. Cannabis hemp line. Yeah, lingerie, cannabis, or hemp lingerie, or whatever.
Could be good. They need a better name though. They need to rebrand it or something. Silk has a nice sound to it,
I don't think hemp is that well.
Well, it's been tarnished over the years. I mean, when I first came into the industry, what I thought about hemp was that it was what you made gunny sacks out of for potatoes.
Well, hemp is also the world's strongest rope, and
that's just
the most expensive.
I knew that it could be used for rigging on ships, and then it was made for the potato sacks. What I didn't realize is that you could make some of the finest, silken type fabric out of it, and beautiful material as well. And so, that needs to be brought back out.
And even the Constitution of the United States was written on
hemp paper. Which is a high quality paper
and it's still around today.
The early American money was
our Constitution will probably be around as long as that one, because it wasn't written on hemp paper.
So anybody that's just they're not a cannabis follower of the whole culture and where we come from and the history and everything, you should look into it, because I'll tell you, it's a very, very interesting history and story behind it.
If hemp was around, the economy wouldn't be as disposable, and then people wouldn't be making as much money because things break and stuff like that. So,
but you wouldn't need as much money either.
Oh well.
Look, you didn't turn.
Look at that! You didn't turn your phone down.
I don't know who that is even.
Oh no, I don't know either.
So how do I turn this phone?
Do that first, and then I
guess I didn't do that right. You gotta go like that.
Down,
and then I go like that, and I hit like this.
No. You just go here.
What's wrong with this?
Right there. Done. Is that easy?
Well, I don't know if I want it completely muted though.
Well, it's not. That's a vibration. If you go one more, that's completely muted.
Oh,
that's with sound. This is just vibrating, but no.
So now it'll vibrate.
Now it'll vibrate. Yes.
Oh, I'll just put that in my pocket for later. Then.
You would, get some people to call you. Chain call. All right, Neil, we're gonna give out Neil's phone number in about an hour. We want you guys all to call. He'll thank you next week. All right, sir. We'll see you next week, and
we may see you Friday at the park even.
It depends if Isabel wants to go or if she's hanging out with Carly or something. So
nice day for a walk in the park, and you're right down by the seawall. And all the rest of it.
Maybe go for lunch or something.
That's nice.
All right, see you later.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it a lot. So well, we'll be responding to Health Canada, and just a brief oversight. I always like to do this little summary of where we're at in what is really the quest for a community cannabis-based store with low barrier access. That's what it turns out we didn't get with legalization. That's what it turns out that we really need is low barrier access, which simply means that there's no barriers to access. It's so that other than maybe an age restriction, because for anything like that, I mean, there should be some age where people need to have parental guidance involved. So there would be that barrier. But other than that, for people that are over the age, there can't be a cost barrier when there's no need for that, an artificial cost barrier. I mean, if something's very expensive, and it's expensive to either excavate it out of the ground or manufacture it or whatever it is, well, then the cost is what the cost is. But when the government is stepping in the way and saying, no, this plant, which could be grown easily outdoors in hybrid greenhouses, it could easily produce similar qualities and quantities to what other produce is produced at and put into the marketplace at, and the government won't allow that, then that's a barrier that doesn't need to be there. So that barrier needs to come off there. The arbitrary barriers of potency are also not justified, and now the courts have ruled on that as well, that you can't have these artificial, just random arbitrary prices or caps put on the potency of the cannabis products in the form of concentrates or edibles. To have some sort of a warning and standardized labeling about how potent they are, well, that does make a lot of sense, especially in the marketplace, and that should be there. But the overregulation and the overpricing and all those barriers that are there are not justified and need to come off there. Just like you can buy coffee, and that can be addictive and hard to come off of and does cause problems for some people, and other commodities in our marketplace where there are problems associated with it, but of course you can buy it because you're an adult, you're a free adult in a world with public servants, and so of course they can't tell you that you can't have these things, but for some reason, they decided 100 years ago in Canada that they could tell you that you can't have cannabis. And so for 100 years now they've tried to maintain either that prohibition or the overregulation, which is essentially just the same prohibition going on. Other than the fact that the average consumer and person can have a small amount on them and they're going to be good to go, all those other prohibitions are still in place for people that are trying to grow for that supply or be involved with the distribution. So those things all need to change, and that's what we're doing here. That's what this is all about. What we've been devoting the show to actually for the last, 3 years, I guess, has been our quest to actually achieve licensing from the federal government that would allow for low barrier access to cannabis. It's been quite a journey, as I mentioned earlier. It goes back over 6 years. It was well over 6 years ago now that I first formulated the idea that we need to make it as easy as possible to get high dose edibles to the people that really could use them. I formed a collaborative effort with VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, a publicly funded organization that is run by the peers and the people on the street, the people that are actually oppressed by the bad drug laws. And so in a collaboration with them, and having presented to City Council, having presented to the Vancouver Police Board, we went ahead and started distributing high-dose edibles in the form of care packs once a week for a solid year to the people that would come and line up through all forms of weather once a week to get those. After the first year, we expanded the program to go 2 days a week, and we had 250 to 300 people lining up twice a week to get their 4 to 6 edibles, a couple of joints. It was a great success, to say the least. We had hundreds of people that were reporting to us every time that we were there that they were using cannabis instead of now these other drugs that they had been using, that they had gotten through withdrawal with the high-dose edibles. And it was a smashing success, to say the least. 2.5 years into doing it there at VANDU, the City of Vancouver agreed that what we were doing was a great success, and they passed a bill unanimously to support low barrier access to cannabis, to have community low barrier access cannabis stores. I met with the city, with the councillor who put that motion forward, Rebecca Bly. We had a really good meeting, myself, Jody Emery, members of the Green Cross, members of the VANDU board. And we had an understanding that we would move our program inside into a storefront and offer it on a much expanded basis, and that the City of Vancouver would support that if we did that. So it took a while to find the proper storefront in the right area, but we did. And upon moving in there, we were quickly informed by the city that that support that was promised by the councillors would be forthcoming after we got support from the higher levels of government. It wasn't the provincial level of government that needed to support us, because they wouldn't be able to with the mandate that they have for non-medical cannabis. It had to be the federal government, and it turned out to be the Special Licensing and Exemption Division of Health Canada, and that is where we applied. We put in that application before we were forcibly evicted from the storefront for not having a license, but Health Canada did not respond quickly at all to us, and we were evicted. We then moved our operation into an RV. We couldn't go back onto the sidewalk where we had been at VANDU. We needed to be continuing what we had now been doing for almost 6 months, which is 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, being available to people right here in this neighborhood where it's needed. And so we started operating out of an RV. That's 2 years and 4+ months ago that we moved into the RV. I mentioned earlier in the show that we did have a telephone meeting with Health Canada that resulted in them saying that there'd probably be licenses for us the following month in January of that year. That was 2 years ago, and we're still waiting on that. We just recently, just a couple of days ago, got a letter from Health Canada saying that their intent is once again to deny our application, and the reasons are because everybody is not supported by a doctor, and that all of our supply has not been deemed to be part of the regulated supply. And we talked on the show earlier about just how ridiculous and hypocritical and wrong that is on the part of Health Canada. But in the meantime, we are continuing to offer our service to the people in the neighborhood 7 days a week. It's been 7 days a week for more than a year now, 8 hours a day, and we wait. We're 1 block away from the police station, just right there. We have the police driving by on a regular basis. I got some nice nods, smiles, and waves from them as they go by in some cases. In other cases, they just don't look at me. They look away and try not to make eye contact. But they're just waiting for the courts. And so we were raided back in May by the VPD, deciding that they better uphold Canada's laws on these things and let the courts decide. And so we have a court date coming up in October 3rd, 4th, and 5th, where we'll have a practice run through with the courts as to whether or not this is a case that they want to proceed with, and we'll see where that goes from there. And in the meantime, we're going to continue to negotiate with Health Canada to see if they will see the light and recognize that what we're doing here can't be stopped, that to do so would put many lives at risk. It would horrify hundreds of people that have learned to rely on us, that have expressed themselves to us about how they would feel if we were not to continue. And Health Canada needs to probably send someone down here to spend a little bit of time with us and learn all of that stuff for themselves before they decide to say, no, you can't do this. Because that is a ridiculous, that is a cruel and unusual thing for them to be trying to say to us in the light of what we're actually doing here, and especially in the light of what it is that they're supposed to be actually doing, which is to look after the public health and safety of Canadians. And we're in the middle of a public health emergency with an overdose crisis. And the bottom line really needs to be that what we're doing here is providing a safe option for people in a world where they are otherwise put at risk of death, and that the possibilities of them dying outweigh any of Health Canada's concerns about whether or not they should have a doctor supporting their choice or not, or whether or not they should be allowed to access cannabis even though it might not be coming from the regulated supply of the Trudeau cartel, which in itself is suspect to begin with. But in our case, we're using cannabis that's being provided by people who understand what it is that we're doing here, that want to be part of helping out the people that are at risk of dying down here, and they're putting out high quality cannabis that can be scrutinized as much as Health Canada wants to scrutinize it, and there will not be any problems found. And especially if the way they scrutinize it is by actually looking at the people that have been using it and finding out whether or not it's been a help to them or a detriment to them. It's a no-brainer what they're going to find out. But they haven't done any of that. They're not down here looking to see about any of that. They're just sitting in their ivory towers back in Ottawa and making decisions about people's lives here on the downtown east side of Vancouver that appear to be with complete disregard for those people themselves and what it's going to mean to actually stop doing what we're doing here. So we'll see where the journey goes from here, and we'll continue to update you as we go. In the meantime, I think we'll step outside and say hi to the people in the RV just for a minute or two and give you a local weather report.
Oh, it's not snowing.
It's a beautiful day here in Vancouver.
I know, eh?
I see we're locked in.
So we locked you in?
We're locked in.
No.
There was a potential invader. It was thwarted at the gate.
I guess.
Apparently. We seem to be free and clear.
Right.
On what is a really nice day with daylight savings time. Now it's nice and bright out here. We had a sunny day. It was a little bit of moisture from time to time. It's a little bit cold every once in a while. There's a wind that comes through, but for the most part, a pretty decent day to be on planet Earth in this particular locale. That's what I can say about that. Now, what I didn't tell you is that you should really get involved with 420 at Thornton Park. I think it's going to be a blast.
Yes.
If you've got anything there that you want to display and put on and be part of that amazing marketplace that should be developing there, then you should be doing that. And the way to do that is go to 420protest420 at gmail.com. So 420protest420 at gmail.com is where you can inquire about booth rental, about sponsorship, and all that type of stuff. It is going to be a huge crowd. The Guinness Book of World Records people are going to be there. We've got people coming from all across Canada. There's going to be media there. There's going to be a lot of eyes on the place. We're going to have a big screen set up that's going to have a view of what's going on at 420 in New York, what's going on in two other places, which I'm not going to say yet because I'm not 100% sure. But it's going to be a split screen, and some of these places that are having big 420 epic events like we are going to be part of our event on a big screen, and we're going to be part of their event on their big screen.
Nice.
So there's going to be a lot of eyes on this 420 here in Vancouver, and great opportunity for sponsorship. That's what I'm trying to say. So we've still got a little bit more than a month to go, which is not a lot of time. So 420protest420@gmail.com. That's how you get information. Really love to see as many people there as we can. Let's have a great 420 united in the park. And let's go check out the Healing Wave RV.
Okay.
This is how the government, they don't get to have a storefront to go into. They can just go to an RV, or better yet, they can go to a tent. There's all kinds of tents that are set up on Hastings Street, 1 block away from here. You can get anything you want there. All those drugs are easily and readily available for people, as is evidenced by how many people all over the place. 11,000 deaths, but thousands and thousands of more people have overdosed and been brought back, and now they're still alive, but in many cases they've had serious health effects because of what's happened through overdose. It's not a process that leaves you unscathed at all. So we need to stop this. We need to figure out a way to stop all of these people from overdosing. And like I say, there's tents available and people on street corners all up and down 1 block away from here, making it really easy for people to get access to whatever it is they want in the form of those hard drugs. For cannabis, we've asked to have a store. We've been asking to have a store for 2.5 years now, and nope, we're still waiting for Health Canada to review our applications. In this case now, they've sent us another intent to refuse, and we're going to have to answer that back within 30 days. And in the meantime, these people get to go to an RV. In the rain, in the wind, in the cold, coming up in the heat, they get to go to an RV. Not into a nice, safe, air-conditioned, dry store, but just to an RV. So shame on our government for thinking that that's the right way to treat people. It is really disgusting. It's a busy day.
It is.
It's a busy street on a busy day, and
I got the signs.
we always do our best to show off the signs that we have to try to educate the people as they're walking by and driving by. And the mainstream media doesn't seem to want to cover this story, even though I think it's one of the biggest stories going on.
We'll tell them tomorrow.
You know, we do all the best that we can here this way, and that's why I'm excited about 420, because that's another opportunity where the media will pay attention to us, and we can get our message out there.
Yep.
Hello.
Where they found it, it's right down the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a large joint in the wheel well there.
Oh wow.
Somebody would like that for sure. So yeah.
Spark it up.
And
This is the world's greatest hot box, I'll tell you. It may not be 40 feet by 40 feet and fed by a love cannon that's industrial strength, but you know, we fire this thing up 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. It may be the longest running continuous hot box that's been going on for quite a while, for sure. So, because you know, we have to test all of our products, and we really think that's an important thing.
Human testing is good
And we're
too.
constantly demonstrating that people can be effective, they can be high functioning, they can do a great job, and cannabis can enhance that. It doesn't have to be a detriment, it's not necessarily impairing. It depends on your tolerance, it depends on what your dosage are, and all of those types of things. But I think we do a fine job, this team and crew of mine, of being really efficient, doing a really good job of helping people, and we've been doing it for all that time. Ah, yes, we have a background.
Yeah, I'm just getting them to turn it on. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ah, there we go. Did you touch the right thing there, did you?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did. Oh, he
Dexter
got it. It's
got
remote.
it. Thank you, Dexter.
Yeah, these people
I'm like
that understand
Magneto
these remote things, you know.
He just willed
over here and
it.
push a button
He
and
willed it.
Gotta love the world that we're living in. And there's a whole lot to love, and there's a whole lot to hate. And if you love the good and positive aspects of life, and you hate the bad aspects of life, well, then you got to do something about it. And we're here providing an opportunity to all of you people out there to do something about this. We don't got it right yet. We could get it right. It would be a hell of a lot better world if we did get it right. The continued wasting of tax dollars and resources that continues the demonization and stigmatization of people that are involved with cannabis has been costing us so much for so long, It's really time that it stopped. I think we're getting close to that. We need to reach critical mass. We need to have as many people as we can come on board and get onto a program of trying to make this thing change properly, to get proper low barrier access community cannabis stores is basically what we're looking for. And so 420 is coming up, St. Patrick's Weed Day is coming up on Friday. For 420, inquire about a booth, join us at the park, be part of those little communities that are going to be so cool on 420 there. Get involved with sponsorship because there's going to be a lot of eyes on that event for sure. 420 protest 420 at gmail.com is how you inquire about that and how you get booths. There's a lot of great booths. They're pretty much all priced at $300. There was a few right around the stage that we decided to make premium booths, and they're $500. But there's not very many of those.
And they're gone, are they?
There might be a few left, but I think they're pretty much gone. But that doesn't matter because so many of those other booths are in such great positions where they are with respect to the paths that are there, or the little communities within those little villages that we're creating there, the way we're doing it. It's going to be a super cool vibe. I really recommend you be part of it. Come on and help us protest, make it as big an event as we can. Unite us all as a community, which we need to have happen because we've been very split for the last number of years here, both from the pandemic and from this so-called legalization. So whatever else you're doing, which is great, always continue to do all of these things of making phone calls and writing letters and sending out emails and talking to your neighbors and phoning open line radio shows and all the things that we can do to say, hey, there's something that's really not right in our society that needs to change before we can change a lot of these other things. Do all of those things, but get excited about 420 coming up April 20th. That's that time when we really do all come together. We really send up quite the smoke signal. We really do speak with one very loud voice, and we really do have the opportunity to get our message out there about what we demand as free human beings with respect to access to cannabis, and what we demand from our government with respect to getting out of our lives where they're not helping. And if they can't help us with respect to access to cannabis, they should certainly get out of the way, and they're not doing that at all. So there you go. I hope you're getting excited about it too. We got a few more weeks to go before 420. This coming Friday at Thornton Park, though, we got our St. Patty's event. So if you're in Vancouver, come and check that out. The weather's going to be great. Lots of good vendors, lots of good cannabis to be had, and that's what you can do. So I guess that's about it. We've covered a lot of stuff this week again, but mostly we're still covering the same thing until it gets resolved, and we'll keep doing that until it gets resolved. Between now and next week, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, go about doing whatever you can to make the world a better place, but most important, as always, have as much fun as you can. See you next week.